Hello and welcome to the Agile DevOps Virtual News Desk. I'm Owen Godimer, the Community Manager at Techwell. I'm joined now by Simon Bor, the Head of Product Development at Inflectra. Simon, thank you for sitting down and chatting with us today.
Thanks so much. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
So we were chatting beforehand, getting to know each other a little bit. And one of the things I know that you're passionate about talking about is risk and risk management and how teams can go about identifying risks, the challenges in identifying those risks, and now how you can integrate the risk management into your Agile processes, specifically at a product level. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience and some of the challenges that you see in identifying risks and then integrating that risk management process into your product, Agile product process?
Yeah, so risks is obviously a really big topic and can encompass almost everything that a company does, and certainly that a team does, and even an individual does in the workplace. And for us, certainly recently, it's meant we always try to be agile in terms of how we deliver our products to our customers and trying to respond to customers. But now, certainly the last few months, we were just saying before, like we have changed up our roadmap significantly for 2020 to adjust to both what our customers need, given the current environment, and more work from home, and what changes can we make to our products to make that easier for people, and also trying to think through what products, what features can we include in our products that we weren't necessarily intending to deliver this year, but are actually more important given wider change, or more important in terms of what the higher-ups in the company are saying. So that's adjusting to the broader risks that the company has, and then filtering that through to how we adjust our roadmap. But that critically means, how do we take account of those change risks? There's risks to changing what our team was working on, and there's risks to delivering things obviously more quickly in a different way than we were thinking we're going to be doing, particularly if those features are themselves, which one of them is, inherently risky just because of the technical risk involved. So there's a whole slew of different types of risks as a team we're trying to manage, so we can deliver a product that is still high quality, but meets the end needs both for the business and for our customers quickly.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I think super integral to make sure that we are delivering obviously quickly. You need to get to market, but at the same time, doing it with good quality in mind and making sure that you're taking into consideration the risks that you're willing to take and which ones you don't want to take in order to get to market. When you have a team who's kind of going through that risk process, that risk identification process, and then ultimately, implementing that risk management into their processes, what are some steps that you think are crucial to getting that right in terms of making sure that you're integrating that risk management into your processes?
Yeah, a lot of it, I think, is actually standard to how you get any team to be high performing. Certainly around brainstorming, the risks aren't something that only the top of the company has expertise in or knowledge of. So I think important is making sure there is, as part of your either daily meetings to an extent, but certainly say weekly meetings or planning meetings for release, having risks as a key item where everyone can come to the table with having read the specs, reading what we're going to be releasing in this, all the user stories we're putting out, what are the risks they foresee. Really importantly, that's on developer side as well as QA, because they have completely different perspectives, as do the integration people, as do broader perspective, as do marketing people for the risks. So getting everyone to the table to share their views is really crucial. And then for us, it's making sure that all those risks are then in a shared place. So we use our tool, which is called SpiroPlan, and it has risks inside it. So we record the risks in the same place where we record our bugs and our user stories. So for us, it's all integrated. It's not just then recording the risk, it's also thinking about the scale of the risk, of course, what's the impact, what's the probability. And again, we can do that as a team. And then thinking through the mitigations. So that gets your risks in place. And then for us, I think an effective way is just making sure those remain top of mind throughout the entire process. It's great to think of the risks, and then it's very easy to forget about them or just not worry about them. So certainly at least once a week, and as you build up very close to the release, depending on your cycle, possibly every day, making sure the risks you have mitigated, you're continuing to discuss. And if you can't mitigate everything in this release or this sprint, you can push off that risk perhaps to the next sprint, or part of that risk to the next sprint. So thinking about those risks as being alive and a part of your core process almost as much as QA and development.
Yeah, I think that's super critical, as you said, especially as we're getting closer to the release of the software, just because you want to make sure that you're not forgetting about those things. And I think the visibility thing is so big, not only in risk management, I think in Agile in general. So you mentioned that, making the risks visible or the ability to share risks visible to the whole team so that people can have an access to the documentation and to the ideas, and make sure that people can share those risks both on the QA and the dev side, as well as the business side, of course. Um, what role do you think visibility plays outside of risk management, but also through your agile processes, to making sure that the team's kind of understanding what's going on across not only the organization, but also more at a micro level across the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a delicate balance. Like for me, managing a team of people, people want to know what's going on. They need the context to do their work, but they also don't need to know everything, because that way they just spend the whole time reading user stories, reading comments, being on every single Slack channel. So trying to balance the summary information with the detailed information. I think part of that is just, again, having everything in one place so people have a comfort blanket, if you will. They know if they want to read that further information, they can. But they know what's assigned to them, they know what they're working on, and they know what other people are working on. They have enough context to be able to focus on what they're doing, know the broader context, not feel the need to understand the nitty-gritty of everything that's going on. Of course, at regular meetings, everyone's looking at the planning board or whatever other system you're using. So to an extent, people have a good enough sense of the overview and the progression throughout the sprint. But I think it's important to make sure people don't get bogged down in the details.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're trying to find that balance of giving them the summary so they have enough context to work, and then also, avoiding going too much in depth where they're just reading messages all the time. When you're talking about that in a distributed fashion, so if you're working with a team that's not co-located, what challenges arise from that to allow the visibility in while you're also not able to get into a meeting room physically together?
Yeah, I mean, key is documenting things in the right way, and it is really hard, and I think all of us are still learning. We were not a distributed company, now we are a 100% distributed company. Think tools like Slack or Chat, whatever system you're using, are clearly great. It's great for in-the-moment things. It's incredibly easy for things to get lost. So making sure that if there is any tangible discussion on, say, a particular user story or a particular bug, that even if that happens in Slack, it's then transposed into your tool of choice so that conversation isn't lost. I think that is key, because there's a reliance on, there's a danger that we can rely too much on text messaging tools, as great as they are, and not enough in face-to-face, or that two people can be having a chat, be it video or text, and that gets lost and the rest of the team can't know about it. So ultimately, it's a mix of intelligently choosing your communication tool and your tool being intelligent enough to know what to notify individuals about. So for instance, if you have a bug that you care about, you can follow that bug in a tool like ours and do. You can follow a bug. So anytime the bug that I care about gets changed, I get notified, even if I'm not the tester. But another bug that I don't care about, I don't need to know about. So a mix of intelligent use of tools and the tools being intelligent enough. And I think we've got a way to go on both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's critical. You mentioned using some of those tools that allow you to kind of have visibility into bugs that you're maybe not the tester on, but you still want to know that it happens because you care about it. It's also about knowing how to use those tools and learning how to use those tools, because tools like Jira do have that capability, but maybe you don't know how to use them. So it's about kind of learning those tools. How do you see that progression happening? Obviously, you mentioned you weren't a distributed team. Now you're fully distributed. How have you seen that change happen over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks? And do you continue to see improvements being made in the situation where we are distributed across your team?
Yes, I mean, it's a learning exercise for many companies. I think we've still got a way to go. For me, I've mentioned documentation before. I think documentation is key. So when there is something new that our team has to do, there was one of our developers was doing something he's done 10 times before, and I saw this time, if it's relatively simple, please document it in a Google Doc or something very simple, like a small README file, so it can be shared with the team. So the more that we are distributed, I think it's easier to rely on doing things in one's own side. It's easy to become slightly siloed because they have expertise. We're not in the office together. It's harder to have that group discussion or that water cooler. So making sure more things are written down in a slightly more formal way is key. So we're doing more of that. Like I said, it's also us getting used to the tools more. So me being disciplined and saying, let's not have this in chat. Let's maybe flip to email. Email is kind of has a bit of a bad rap, but some things are better in email. People can read it. It has a subject line. You can read it more carefully. You can reply over slower time without getting lost in the churn. Having regular meetings as teams is important. I have daily stand-ups. We have both virtual and over video, and I think video is really helpful to stay in touch with each other. So that can really help. How it's going to change in the future, I think it's a work in progress for everybody. I think that how to have some of the water cooler stuff is lost, and some of the stress relief, like if everyone's stressed because of working on a particular sprint, there's no shared outlet for that with us all being distributed. And I don't know how to start. I've been thinking about that. I'm not sure what the solution is, but I think there's more work to do on how to get some of those more real shared experiences, good and bad, working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm hopeful that as teams continue to work in a distributed fashion, we continue to get better at this sort of thing. Simon, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated getting to talk to you about risk management and agile processes and distributed teams. If you haven't already, make sure you stop by the Inflectra booth at the virtual event and check them out. Simon, thank you once again for sitting down with me today.
Thanks so much.